Sorry if the audio quality sounds really different, but I'm splitting the video that I just made into two parts. So the first part of this video will be uploaded first, and that's probably going to be on the channel by the time you see this one. And this is going to be the second part, and I'm adding this part at the beginning just to let you know that I basically split this video up. And also, I would like to share with you this picture that I took. These are Blu-rays that I received from Dennis Wan, or Dennis One. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. Maybe Dennis One. And these are for me to pass out basically. And I'm not the only person that he sent these Blu-rays to. He sent Blu-rays to other people as well. But these particular Blu-rays came to me, but he sent other Blu-rays to other people. And yeah, so we're not just campaigning online. We're still going in the streets as well, passing out Blu-rays, and or not maybe not hand to hand, but at least leaving these Blu-rays in places where people can find them, and hopefully enjoy the movie, decide to buy one on their own, and then maybe encourage other people to buy Blu-rays as well. But if you can afford to do it, do it, and if you can't, well, do whatever else you can to support. And that's all. So here comes the second part of this video, and the second part of the last video I uploaded, whatever. And this is going to be dealing with the conversation that we had with Scott Mendelson, well, mostly Grace Randolph. And Scott Mendelson did say one or two things, but he didn't continue on in the conversation. But this is about RT scores, audience scores specifically, and about Grace's comment saying that they couldn't be, or they shouldn't be taken seriously. And so, without further ado, here's the rest of the video. Okay, it started with Challenger ST quote tweeting Grace, and this what Grace was replying to was, she was replying to something about the Rambo First Blood. Oh no, Rambo Last Blood. That's what it was. Sorry, Rambo Last Blood RT scores, and she was saying that the the audience scores are not authentic and should never be taken seriously. I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to give her the benefit of the doubt and say she was unintentionally hyperbolic, but maybe she does believe this, and that's the sad state of uh, these people in the access media, that they're so quick to try to dismiss anything that they don't agree with as trolls or bots or whatever else. And we've been getting called bots a lot lately. We've been told that we need to get employed, we need to get a job. We've been told, I could go down the list of these things. I don't have the list in front of me right now. I'll just move on here. So when Grace replied, she said, "That's actually incorrect. I'm saying you need to look at the sources, or look at sources that work to be accurate. When it comes to representing fan opinions, it's cinema score and the box office that are responsible identifiers." So in her opinion, cinema score is a measure of what the fan what the audience really thinks, right? And I guess they feel like Rotten Tomatoes is a place where trolls just go and either uh, increase or decrease an audience score of a movie to just negatively affect the movie. But here's the issue with what she says. Okay, and let me just read on first. Hmm. I'm not. I'm afraid not. In my opinion, it's not a poll. I think there's certainly a discussion going on there, which is interesting, but I wouldn't say it accurately reflects overall audience opinion either. And I had some things to share. I said there are times when the audience scores should be taken seriously. Take Alita's scores. Alita's RT critic scores were low, but the audience scores were high from as early as February 15th. I have I have archived screenshots. Alita also had an A minus cinema score supporting the audience score. Now let's look at some of these screenshots that I had. This was from this archive. It's kind of hard to see here, but it's, as you can see up there in the top right corner, it says February 15th. I remember now, actually, I showed you some of this before in a reply to Scott Mendelson. And back then, Alita had 93% audience approval rating with only, how many? 3,896 votes. That was before any controversy, before any sort of Alita challenge happened or whatever. And oh wait, let's go back to the critic score though. But the critics had given it a 61%, and when I say given it, I mean like 61% of the critics gave it a favorable score, right? So 93% of the audience gave Alita a positive score. 61% of the critics gave it a positive score. Now, but looking at the cinema score, which was what Grace Randolph said was a better reflection of what the audience thinks, and oh, in her opinion, the audience score shouldn't vary wildly with the critic score, but here it does. The critic score is low, but the audience score is high. Which one is right? Is it trolls, or is it the critics who are wrong? So going by her words, the cinema score more accurately reflects the quality of the movie. So Alita has an A minus cinema score, and I think her audience score here, 93%, is about an A minus, right? I would probably say it's an A, but or an A plus, but we just say it's an A minus. So that is also supported by the Blu-ray.com. You can't see, it might be a little small here. Let me see if I can zoom in. Okay, there we go. From Blu-ray.com. Up there in the top left-hand corner, Alita has an 8.1, or she had an 8.1 at the time that I took that screenshot. And also, if you look up, if you Google search Alita, you will see that on this, I don't know what that box is over there on the right side, but it's usually on the right side of the page. And it'll say 95% like this movie. And that's right in line with what the Alita had as the RT audience score. And let's not forget that for the longest time, Rotten Tomatoes, the critics there had given Alita a 59%. And that was during some very important first weeks when the movie really needed the boost. But, they had it as a rotten. And so a lot of people probably skipped the movie because of that. But as you can see, the audience score went up to 94%. And at this point, it had 23,185 votes or ratings. Yeah. So out of that, 94% of the people gave it a positive score. Now I need to move on to some of what I said to Scott Mendelson. Let's see if I can get back here. Oh, here we go. All right, so going on with this conversation. So Grace says the RT score, oh no, the cinema score is great. The RT score doesn't matter. However, before that, she was saying that the critic score was what should be relied on, and the audience score doesn't matter. So I just said to her, I was saying that it supported the audience score and indicates that it's the critic score that isn't always reliable. People like Scott Mendelson have suggested that the audience scores were manipulated. This is the type of disinformation that the media should be held accountable for. Grace replies, you should tag someone with making such a serious allegation and claiming they support it. And so then I showed her the screenshots from Scott Mendelson's article, where he says in it that while the user pose can be fudged in one direction, The Last Jedi, or another, Alita Battle Angel, that the audience polling is mostly in step with the critical consensus implies a relative accuracy. So he had no reason to bring up Alita Battle Angel because Alita's scores were not fudged or manipulated, or however you want to put it. That was a very dishonest thing for him to say. And so anyway, he gets tagged in and he says, actually, in that case, Alita was an example of fans flooding the user review pages in a way that inflated the user rating. I liked it a lot, but the legs suggested that folks mostly thought it was okay. And so Challenger says, or ST, he says, but Grace just assured me that Alita's A plus cinema score was a bona fide indication of viewer sentiment and not skewed by flooding the viewer sentiment. And Grace says he's not talking about cinema score. That's a professional company that polls people directly. You don't log onto a website. Now I'm trying to find my response to. I had another. Okay, I guess I got to open this up. So my response to him was, here we go. So he says that fans flooded it and inflated the score. But as I showed him, the score was at 93% on as early as the 15th of February, and it never dipped below that, and it never really went much higher than that. It went to 94%, but that was about it. And so I don't see any reason, I'm reading on, I don't see any reason to suggest that the scores were fudged either way, nor inflated. We could speculate on whether people had a reason to, but there wasn't any controversy around Alita until the first week of March. So there was a good 3 weeks, at least 3 weeks, where Alita was off anybody's radar. There was no controversy. There was nothing. So it's ridiculous to suggest that people inflated it, much less that they even had a reason to. But this is what he says. And after that, I told him that the first week of March is when a YouTuber started the Alita challenge, and then high profile people took that and ran with it. But up until that point, Alita was on almost no one's radar. In other words, there was no probable cause for scores to be fudged. And that was it. That was it from them. I didn't hear anything else. I think the point had been made, but it's an example of the narrative that they try to push out there now, where they try to say that if the audience scores doesn't match the critic scores, then it's been manipulated, and that we can't trust the audience scores. And I just wanted to share that with you all. Don't fall for that, especially when it concerns Alita, because the movie has ample evidence to suggest that the scores are legitimate, that they're real, that people really enjoy the movie, and that there was no sort of funny business going on with Alita at all. So that's the end of this video. Sorry for making this go on a little bit longer than I intended to. So thank you all for listening, and I'll talk to you later.